If history were to repeat itself, would the current world order still re-emerge? A brief history of 13,000 years of humanity. There is a significant disparity in power between countries today. Throughout history, there have been two types of human societies, the conquerors and the conquered. On the world stage, the conquerors generally come from the Eurasian regions, including Europe, Asia, and for the purposes of our discussion, we will also include North Africa. On the other hand, the conquered generally come from the following regions: the Americas, sub-Saharan Africa, the indigenous people of Australia, and the Pacific Islands. But where does the root of this stark power disparity come from? Why does this gap in strength have such clear regional divisions? Hello guys, welcome to my channel again. The main focus of this episode is to share a classic work called Guns, Germs and Steel. In this episode, we will take a ride on a time machine and traverse tens of thousands of years in history. We will gradually trace the evolutionary journey of human society in reverse. We will use a magnifying glass to examine how factors such as technology, agriculture, bacteria, and animals have led to the current outcomes in international affairs. When I first read this book, it felt like my entire worldview was overturned. It was written by a geographer named Jared Diamond, and its content is incredibly extensive and seemingly scholarly. The book is quite thick, around 500 pages, but after condensing it, I am confident that it will only take the time for a shower. So, go to the bathroom and come back. Not only will you be clean, but your IQ might also increase by 1 point. If this content is helpful to you, please remember to subscribe and let me know if you'd like to continue watching similar topics. Alright, to explore this power disparity, the best starting point is perhaps a particular battle, one of the most astonishing upsets in history. This battle took place in 1532 in a city called Cajamarca, which is in modern-day Peru. At the time, there was a prominent figure named Pizarro, who led a group of Spaniards to war against the Inca Empire, which was a powerful empire spanning from Colombia to Chile, with a total population of 16 million. Not only were they numerous, but they were also known for their abundant gold. Pizarro coveted this land and saw how the indigenous people revered their Inca king as a god. Following the saying, to capture the thief, capture the king first, he decided to kill him. What followed was a bloody massacre. Pizarro only had 168 men, yet they went up against the Inca Empire, capturing the Inca king and killing 2,000 guards along with another 80,000 Inca soldiers who were left stunned and terrified, standing there with weak legs and wide-eyed, even wetting their pants in fear. But hold on, 168 against 80,000? What's there to fear when a few drops of saliva could drown them, right? To understand the reasons behind this, let's put ourselves in the shoes of the Inca people. This is the complete set of equipment the Inca people had on their battlefield: sewn armor and weapons made of stone, wood and copper. In the gaming world, we would consider this equipment as beginner-level gear. But what did the Inca people see that caused such panic? They saw a group of fair-skinned individuals with red beards and green eyes who not only seemed impervious to their knives and spears, but also possessed the ability to spew fire from a distance to kill their enemies. They were like level 99 monsters. Moreover, these foreigners moved several times faster than usual because of their firearms, cannons, steel and armor, things the Inca people had never seen before. They hadn't even seen horses before. Just imagine their astonishment as they watched the Spanish riders maneuvering swiftly on the battlefield. What kind of reaction do you think they would have had? They would have been so amazed that their jaws would have dropped. In the end, the war didn't need to be fought because it was unnecessary. In the end, the Native Americans in the Americas were completely defeated by the diseases brought over by the Europeans. This astonishing upset in the battle gave rise to a crucial question. Why did the Europeans have guns, germs and steel and not the Inca people who were already advanced? Is it because the Spanish were more intelligent? That's a mistaken assumption. Guns and cannons were not invented by the Spanish, they were introduced. Gunpowder, as many people know, was invented in China 2,000 years ago. Firearms were developed about 1,000 years later. It wasn't until the 14th century that this knowledge reached Europe, possibly transmitted during the Mongol invasions or through trade along the Silk Road. Regardless, the Spanish benefited from sharing the same landmass with China. On the other hand, the Inca people were not as fortunate. They were separated by an ocean and had no opportunity to access the latest technologies. The same situation applies to steel. The technology of steel making also originated in Eurasia, most likely in India, China, or Mesopotamia, and eventually spread to Europe. The Inca people had no part in it. They simply had no knowledge of the existence of such materials. It's a matter of true balance in space and time, which predetermined their loss in this war even before it began. However, we have yet to answer the question of why these technologies were invented in Eurasia and not in the Americas. Groundbreaking inventions are not solely the result of genius or creativity. For most of history, humans had only one job: finding food. Yes, it's really just about finding food. Only when certain regions were able to sustain high population densities did different professions emerge. The higher the population, the more it could support specialized talents, leading to more inventions. So in summary, what was needed was population, quantity, and time. In this regard, Eurasia clearly had the advantage. In the Americas, even before the first city emerged, Eurasia already had densely populated countries, kingdoms, and empires. Therefore, many advanced technologies in ancient times originated from these regions, which is reasonable. It temporarily established the concept that technology is power, and regions with high population densities had more technological advancements. Now let's delve further into why Eurasia was able to create densely populated regions first. Around 10,300 years ago, when humans were still hunter-gatherers, food was scarce. Survival required constant migration. Humans had to go wherever the prey went. However, it was inconvenient to hunt while carrying a pregnant belly. Hence, women only gave birth every 4 years. But then a situation occurred that changed the course of human life planning worldwide: the agricultural revolution. The emergence of agriculture meant that humans no longer needed to migrate and could establish permanent settlements. The birth rate immediately doubled. Cultivation became the main cause of population growth. Therefore, the earlier a group of foragers transitioned to farming and achieved success, the more favorable conditions they had to bear more children and support a larger population. However, the world is unfair. Not everyone could successfully transition. If you happen to be a farmer who started in a region with fertile soil, such as the Fertile Crescent, modern-day Middle East, you were already ahead of the game. This region had rich soil, and crops like wheat and beans originated from there. What were the advantages? These crops contained a high amount of fats and proteins, making them easy to cultivate and nutritionally rich. Occupying and staying in this region was highly advantageous. But suppose you chose another region, like the eastern coast of the United States. In that case, I must congratulate you. This region had crops such as sunflowers, pumpkins, and one type of quinoa. The nutritional value was not evenly distributed, and it couldn't support a large population. You were already at a disadvantage from the start. Or let's say you chose Central America, the birthplace of maize or corn. You might think it was a good choice, but the maize of the past was small. It couldn't even be used to make porridge. It took thousands of years for maize to evolve into a useful crop. In conclusion, the ability to successfully transition to agriculture is heavily influenced by the initial conditions. How many crops do you have, and which crops are they? How is your farmland? Your population will be directly affected by these factors, and your technology will follow suit. However, the population size also depends on other factors, such as domesticated animals. Throughout human history, only 14 species of mammals have been successfully domesticated, including pigs, horses, sheep, and others. It's remarkable that out of these 14, 13 of them originated from Eurasia. Why is there such a bias? First, it's about size. Eurasia is a vast continent that can accommodate a wide range of ecosystems, providing more options for natural selection. Another reason is primarily due to human factors. Large mammals do exist in the Americas, but they were already overhunted and extinct by early humans. Why did extinction happen there, while there were no issues here? Let's focus on Eurasia. Humans and animals co-evolved for thousands of years. Animals learned to recognize that humans were dangerous and avoided them. Otherwise, they would easily be preyed upon. However, in the Americas, humans only set foot around 11,000 years ago. The animals there had a different response. These humans, resembling monkeys, were unfamiliar to them, and the animals didn't fear them. Just imagine being one of the first humans encountering prey that showed no signs of defense. It was an opportunity for a feast, and they didn't miss it. The indigenous people indulged in abundant food, feasting on large animals until their extinction. Now let's consider choosing another location like Africa. Lions, gorillas, hippos, these are large animals with plenty of meat. Can they be domesticated? While it might be possible, it's not economically viable. To raise a 330-pound lion, for example, you would need to feed it 3,300 pounds of meat until it reaches adulthood. Hippos? They are too aggressive. Why risk your life? Do you prefer violent animals? As we count, there aren't many options of animals worldwide that are suitable for domestication, and most of them are already found in Eurasia. It provided many benefits to the people of this region. Meat and milk offered abundant calories, protein and fats to humans. Farmers could also utilize horses and cattle to assist in cultivation, saving labor, time and increasing efficiency. Animal skins had their advantages too. They could be used as fur in winter to keep warm, while horses and camels served as daily means of transportation. They proved unparalleled in warfare as well. For those who lacked these resources, they were like superpowers. Therefore, we can see that the rise of Eurasia was accelerated by domesticated animals. Without them, would the population growth in Eurasia have been so dramatic? However, firearms and steel weren't the deadliest weapons for indigenous populations. There was another ultimate weapon that spread rapidly: infectious diseases, particularly the highly contagious and devastating smallpox. It spread at an unprecedented speed. In history, nothing has been more effective in exterminating human populations than bacteria. But now there is an even more potent and deadly virus, the novel coronavirus, which causes COVID-19. In terms of its impact on human life, it surpasses anything that has come before. Throughout Earth's history, there is nothing more powerful than bacteria when it comes to wiping out human populations. Where did bacteria come from? Most of them originated from animals, as we discussed earlier. The majority of domesticated animals come from the same region, and this is crucial. If you live in that region, your chances of coming into contact with bacteria are much higher. You can coexist with viruses and undergo many generations of co-evolution. When new pathogens emerge, it can result in the death of most people in a village, but there will undoubtedly be survivors. Their immune capabilities will be inherited by the next generation. Over time, what were once major bacterial infections can become minor illnesses for future generations. However, this immunity is only possessed by a specific group of people. When these carriers of bacteria start interacting with other populations, such as the Americas or the Pacific Islands, oh my God, the consequences are severe. The indigenous people lacking antibodies pay a heavy price. These pathogens begin to spread, including diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza. Even if these newcomers have no ill intentions, they are not always here to seize gold, but simply to make friends. It makes no difference. Because when they say, "Hola, amigo," your fate is already sealed. Nearly 90% of the population in the Americas fell victim to this without a single gunshot or sword. They were defeated by the most powerful AOE, area of effect, attack in human history. If you made it this far, congratulations. The entire theory is just one secret away from connecting everything. The ultimate decryption. Why do most societies of this kind originate from Eurasia? The secret lies in geography and its width. Open up a map and see. The most horizontally expansive land on Earth is Eurasia, stretching from the west in Britain to the east in Japan. Now let's look at Africa and the Americas. They develop mainly in a north-south direction, the opposite of Eurasia. So let's think about what is most influenced by latitude. What is the difference between east-west and north-south? Climate. As you move from north to south, you encounter significant temperature differences, but as you move from west to east, you don't. Climate plays a crucial role in agriculture. If an orange tree can grow in Spain, there's a good chance it can also grow in Turkey because they share the same latitude and similar temperatures. But what about an avocado tree from Mexico? If you try to transplant it to Canada, thousands of miles to the north, it won't grow because the climate difference is too significant. So it turns out that everything revolves around geography. That's why any crops that appear in Eurasia have the potential to spread across the entire continent from east to west. Eurasian farmers can grow crops not only native to their own region, but also those from faraway lands. Technology, ideas, and culture, to a greater or lesser extent, are all influenced by this context. Why is it that Eurasia became the rulers while other places could only be ruled? It's not because of genes, intelligence, or physical differences, it's because everyone started the game with vastly different hands. Let's quickly recap. Societies and technology in Eurasia developed faster than in other regions. The invention of new technologies relies on societies with higher populations, and the emergence of agriculture led to population growth. However, this growth depends on the region and the availability of domesticable animals, all of which were present in Eurasia. Bacteria and animals have been coexisting and evolving with Eurasian populations for a long time, leading to the extinction of isolated societies in other regions. The advantage lies in Eurasia being a landmass that stretches from east to west. Isn't it simple? Of course, if you actually read the book, you'll find numerous arguments that thoroughly examine the history of each animal and crop. The author's explanations are clearer than mine, and there are many points I haven't mentioned. This is just highlighting the main points. The book Guns, Germs and Steel is written by an experienced geographer, and if you're interested, you can buy a copy to read. However, I'd like to take this opportunity to bring up an important reflection. This is just a persuasive theory. Although it is highly convincing, some people criticize it for being overly deterministic based on geography. Others argue that it has flaws when used to explain African history because we see maps with our naked eyes that do not clearly differentiate between north and south, but rather emphasize horizontal dimensions. So how much you agree with it is up to you. If you want to continue supporting this channel, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any episodes. Do you find this geographical interpretation convincing? Lastly, if being radical is the new norm and objectivity is considered heretical, perhaps we should be radically objective. Until next time, stay curious and stay unconventional.